Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Vulnerability Time. I am your host and published author, Trenton Epizon Rucker. Um, Once again, y'all, it's lovely to have y'all here. Then again, I also want to thank y'all and the special guests for, supporting this podcast and making it go international. People are going to be healed and are getting healed all over the world. And that's what's the point of this, one of the main points of this podcast, folks. So, with that being said, welcome to Vulnerability Time. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Hunter. Hunter, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Trenton. Really honored to be here. Thanks for asking to have me be on. This is a real treat. My name is Hunter Reese. I'm 31. I turned 32 this year. Grew up in the Midwest in a town outside of Chicago. But I currently live in Los Angeles, TV writer, script coordinator, writer's assistant, support staff. I am a photographer. I do all sorts of things. Spend a lot of time trying to make people laugh. And you'll probably hear some of that today.
Aw, that's sweet. So tell us a little bit about, like, I know you have some photography pages on Instagram, some comedy pages. Folks, I'm gonna put that in the episode description below, but Hunter, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I grew up with a camera in my hands always. I was born in 1990. So when I was coming of age, sort of in my adolescence, was right about the time that the digital camera and digital video camera were starting to become sort of the prosumer consumer level. So, walking around everywhere, taking pictures, shooting videos of me and my friends when I was a kid, that was seeing the world through a camera lens was my way of making sense and understanding the world. And if we want to do a real deep dive therapy into it, it's I also learned how to edit. So I would shoot little videos of me and my friends and take that home, capture it into the computer. This is dating me, but this would be back when everything was shot on tape and had to be digitally captured in real time into a computer much slower than the one I'm on now. And I would put it into some software and edit it. That was my first sort of foray into this idea of control, and the idea that I could, looking through the camera lens, I could make sense and understand the world, but then I could take what I captured, take it home and assemble it the way that I so desired. So I had some form of control for the world around me and how I viewed the world, which was definitely set me on a path of loving to capture everything around me. I'm what the kids call a late bloomer. It took me a little while to come out of my shell and develop growing up. I think I spent a lot of time on the sidelines watching my peers, grow up and develop, make mistakes before I did. And one of the things that was common was I would be sort of the guy that would go to the party and record everything on camera. Instead of being vulnerable or putting myself out there and participating in the party myself, I would just capture it sort of from an outside perspective looking in. And then I could take it home, edit it, and then show it back to my friends who were the ones sort of participating in the party. So that was a lot of my upbringing. Was doing things like that. Yeah, go ahead.
That's actually something really interesting, kind of concept that she had mentioned. when you said you grew up with basically with the camera in your hand. Um, and it's from what you were telling me, it sounded like, you were able to capture something and then make it your own, kind of like that spirit of creativity. Um,
Yeah.
that's huge, and that and also you said you're aging yourself. I just want folks to know, folks, Hunter looks like he's 25, so
Oh,
it's
you're too kind.
well, you really do
Uh,
look like you're 25.
yeah, I think maybe there's that Zoom preferences. If you go to preferences under Zoom, they have that thing to age you down. But
Do
uh,
they really? Do
but
they
we
really?
get well, yeah, we can get into a filter discussion a little bit later. But yeah, if you go to preferences, there's touch up my appearance. Yeah, it does. What all these Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok filters do.
Well,
They take your face and make it look a little bit younger, a little bit smoother.
on your Instagram, you still look 25. So let's not be
That's
humble here.
that's very kind. That's very kind. I will take it. Um,
Yes. Yes.
I don't necessarily want to be 25 anymore. I'm
Mhm.
loving my 30s. For anyone that's
Yeah.
going through their 20s right now and is struggling or trying to find out who you are, if you're still auditioning different personalities, trying to see what sticks and what doesn't, just know that it gets better every year. And so yeah, that's at least what I found.
Needed to hear that. Definitely needed
Yeah.
to hear that. And that kind of brings me, that theme of finding yourself. That kind of brings us to our topics today, which is addiction, pressures of dating, slash online dating, and finding yourself. So, Hunter, I would like to start with addiction. What about that from coming from someone who's also struggled with addiction? Um, what is that? What does that topic mean to you?
Yeah.
How does that resonate with
So
you?
I'm a recovering addict. I have many vices.
Can you repeat that again?
Oh yeah, I said I'm a recovering addict.
Okay.
I have many vices. Some much more um, destructive than others. I think we live in a world that sells you a lot of things, a lot of external things to try and regulate your internal emotions. And a lot of what we encounter in our lives, sort of everything I encounter in my life, in some way, shape, or form, is either designed or motivated by sort of hijacking your brain's reward center, and getting you to do more or consume more, or and this is sort of, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I can't speak too heavily on this, but I think most people are familiar with some of the terms, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. These chemicals in your brain can be easily manipulated by external things, and there's a lot. We live in a world of excess, certainly here in the United States, where things are sold to you to try and hijack your brain's reward center and those chemicals and keep you addicted to things. Like I said, I have many vices, but the one that ultimately sort of brought me down and made me realize that I was an addict was I was on a very dangerous combination of prescription amphetamines. This would be Adderall, Vyvanse, things like that, and benzodiazepines, Xanax, things like that. So I was never prescribed these things. I was always sort of getting them from friends and getting them illicitly. But by taking both of those, the Adderall, the the Adderall was a stimulant, so that was my up lever, and the Xanax was a depressant, which was my down lever. So again, we go back to this idea of control. I was trying to be in control of my emotions by using these external substances to have an up lever and a down lever. And what's really scary about that is these things, these prescription drugs are no joke. They, you know, not only are they very addictive, but they will. It's so insidious, these addictions, because they sneak up on you so fast.
Yeah.
There's a saying sort of in recovery circles. It's like it works until it doesn't, and that happens pretty quickly. All of a sudden, you find yourself in a situation where you're waking up and taking these things in the morning to wake up, and you're taking other things at night to go to sleep. And what was once, you know, a once a week thing becomes a twice a week thing, becomes a once a day thing, becomes a twice a day thing. And you are, you have given over your your body and yourself to these vices, and getting out of that spiral is a very, very hard thing to do.
Right.
So oh yeah, go ahead.
Would you say that, because this is something really interesting, and I'm going to tie it into the question I have for you. So I learned recently that, you know, a lot of the times, I can't speak for every time, but it was a fascinating fact that I learned that, you know, a lot of times addiction is less about addiction and more so about gaining some type of sanity. I also learned that addiction can be and has been a survival mechanism for humans. For example, we're addicted to food, we're addicted to water. These are what our body needs, what our brain needs, you know, to function. And that's the thing, like with other addictions, it can be something that our body thinks we need. And it could, like you said, kind of like it can serve us and then eventually not serve us anymore. And I forgot how I was gonna tie this in, but I just think that's really cool facts to mention. But in your recovery process, Hunter, I just know that shame is something that definitely is a hindrance in a lot of things. How has shame affected you, and how did you, you know, grow through your addiction, or, you know, heal progressively with your addiction, upward spiral?
It's a great point and a great question, because you know, shame is huge in addiction. I personally was so ashamed of the need or desire, or whatever you want to call it, to use these things to try and regulate you know, something that I didn't have control over. And that led to I was dishonest with family, friends about my use, my addiction, my abuse. I constantly lied, and then I would lie about lying, and it turned into this thing, because the worst, I knew if people found out, they would try to get me to stop, and I didn't want to stop.
Right.
And that was a really scary thing. So yeah, the shame that surrounds it, because, you know, I was raised sort of in the 90s when the DARE program was really, really big. And think what you will about the DARE program, and if that was,
for those of us that don't know, what's the DARE program?
Yeah, the DARE program was an anti-drug program taught in schools in the United States. It's an acronym. I believe it stands for how funny that I was taught this for many years and I can't even remember what it stands for.
Gotta look it up,
Uh,
huh? Gotta.
yes. So it's Dare, to resist drugs and violence. Um, and yeah, I mean, there are plenty of articles on the internet and elsewhere about the failures of that Dare program. I'll let those articles speak for themselves. But anyways, drugs were this really bad thing that you should never try. And I think for me, this is sort of tangentially related, but you spoke earlier about the need to survive. I look at a lot of my early drug use and the drug use in my 20s, particularly the Adderall, as a self-preservation sort of that I did to do a couple things. One, to treat undiagnosed ADHD, which I still to this day believe I have. But also, as we keep getting more technologically advanced and we live in this world that's ever accelerating, I think the more apparent it becomes that our bodies and our brains are just not designed to thrive in a world like this. This is and so when you're a kid in school and you have a term paper due and someone offers you a pill like an Adderall it's essential. I mean, it's an amphetamine. It's speed. It speeds up your heart rate. It speeds up your thinking processes. It does all these things, and all of a sudden you can take this pill and knock out a paper like in a night. That's a really powerful thing that exists. And so I saw that and went, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. This is something that I've been lacking, because everyone else seems to have figured out a way to get their work done, but I haven't. So I'm going to use this external thing to do that. I think there's a larger conversation to be had about education in general, and whether, there are lots of different types of kids and brains and young people that, don't thrive in the schooling environment, maybe that is presented to most people. But yeah, this was survival for me, to try and get stuff done.
Yeah. And that's also two things that I thought about. Us as humans and how our body is, as soon as we're born into this earth, our body starts to go into survival mode. And I have mixed, I would say I have an unpopular view on what I'm about to say, and I'll explain that as well. Sometimes as humans, we do something that will kill us while we're trying to also survive, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, for me, like my porn addiction, it was a coping mechanism. It got me out of the environment that I was in, the unhealthy environment that I was in. I was able to go to that, and but it progressed eventually, but I was able to go to that as a way of, escape, as a way of my body and myself just trying to, in a way, kind of love myself enough to give it what it needs. However, that's the thing, as humans, it can be hard to, sometimes, at least for me, I looked for the right things in the wrong places. However, I felt like there was no right place. I felt like if there was right or wrong in front of me, I felt like I probably would have taken the right. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not always a black and white answer. It's a lot of gray. And I'm saying this because I know a lot of, people were taught certain things about drugs. And it's just stigmatized, you know what I mean? It's there's actually so much that occurs, so much things from childhood that can affect that. What I was about to say is, and this is something that I think it would be very unpopular. However, this is just from my experience and from what I've seen from others and learned from their experience as well, is that, I mean, it kind of sounds like it's you and your mind and your body all trying to work together to just give you what it needs. And I mean, oh gosh, I don't want to say it's a form of self-love, but I would say, at least for me, it's kind of like it was a form of trying to care for myself. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it
Yeah.
totally does. I want to touch on a few things that you just mentioned. You know, uh, use of these sort of external vices um, is a coping mechanism, and that is a huge part of what it is. I think when we're young, we experience things that are scary and new, and we experience emotions that we don't quite understand, or feelings that we don't quite understand. Arousal being one of them. You mentioned your porn addiction. I also have a porn addiction. I grew up, right on the cusp of having high-speed internet access. And I was a young man. I was experiencing, all these feelings, arousal being one of them. I didn't quite know how to safely or genuinely express that. So it was, looking to, and when I saw things like what I would see on the internet, I was pulled towards it. And yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, masturbation is healthy. It's the thing you do to learn about your body and to learn what you like and what you don't like.
Real quick.
Where it gets, yeah.
Really quick for those listening, this is vulnerability time, folks. Look, we all know the word masturbation means. It can sound uncomfortable, but look, folks. Let's break this stigma of hiding from it. Because I mean, a lot of it is not talked about, and there can be a point where it gets unhealthy, and we can be stuck in that unhealthy spot. However, it's kind of like we're gonna stay there in a way because we're afraid to talk about it. So props to you, Hunter, for even just saying that word, because I
Oh,
know
sure.
that's definitely making someone out there uncomfortable, which is not bad, folks. There's growth in the uncomfort,
Hmm.
so I just wanted to restate that word, just to be like, we're throwing it
Of
out there.
course. Yeah, no,
Yeah, masturbation.
it's always good to have sort of a trigger warning or anything to make sure that people, listen to this stuff in a healthy way. Anyways, Ed, I think masturbation is healthy and important part of development and all that. Where it takes a turn where it took a turn for me, I'll speak for myself, was having, unlimited access via high-speed internet to anything in the world. And what that allows is years and years of doing that. My sexual identity from age 10 to 29 was really surrounded by or lived in this space where it was like digital pixels on a screen. And that I don't think is the healthiest thing. It wasn't the healthiest thing for me, because I had spent years and years sort of training my brain to understand that that's what sex was, and that's not what sex is, or what I believe it should be. When you're with another person, or people, it is such a different experience,
What do you
because
believe it
there's
should be for yourself? What do you believe it should be?
I think, touch and things like that are so important. When there's a barrier, but the performers I would watch on the internet, I don't have any emotional connection with them. and I can't physically touch them or experience them in real life, there's this barrier of just, it's really like lust. And I think the years and years of training my brain through doing it, you know, having this unlimited internet access every night, every day, that stuff gets really hard to unlearn.
Wow,
And
right?
when
Especially in
you,
developmental stages.
yes, when you're doing that, when your brain is still forming, and then you get maybe to your mid 20s or late 20s, and let's say, for instance, you know, a monogamous relationship is something that you're interested in. Taking that brain and trying to insert it into this other thing is extremely difficult, and there's a lot of pain associated with that. And I will be the first to admit, you know, I made choices in my mid 20s in relationships that I'm not proud of. But a lot of them stem back to this craving or need for sexual variety. There were, you know, there were times where I would go on the internet and use internet pornography to masturbate. And then when I was finished, I would close like 39 tabs. And it was like, this is not good. Because what's happening in the brain science of it, you have spikes of dopamine every time you see something novel. The novelty of the new video, the new thing, gets you a spike of dopamine. And years and years of doing that to yourself, you get really good at finding those spikes. And then you take that and you try and have a one-on-one, personal, intimate connection with somebody in person, and it just doesn't work.
It's kind of like desensitizing. And
yes,
yeah,
I think that's a big part of it.
Hunter, that's, you know, I also recently learned, because I was taking a this class for grad school. It's called like a substance abuse and addiction class, and just I learned a whole bunch of things. Now I already knew that, you know, addiction, there's so much more to the story than, oh, just say no to drugs, or why don't you just stop. Cold turkey is very dangerous, you know. And I was
it's
like,
so dangerous.
Very, exactly. And so addiction is not a black and white, oh, just say no statement. Like, you know, people aren't objects to fix. We are just humans to heal. And when we have this, oh, fix others mindset, like that whole, oh, just fix it, that's not how humans operate. But anyways,
that's not how that works.
Like, what, like, for example, like pornography, like what that, you know, huge amounts of it, especially for a long span of time, you know, the ramifications and the damage that it can do to the brain and do to those chemicals, you know what I mean? Not to say that, you know, the brain can't heal, you know, up to a certain point. But for example, like the dopamine, the serotonin, that can start to be suppressed, and then you're left wanting to do well, oftentimes, I'm not going to say everybody, it can end up progressing into something more, because you're realizing what you're used to is no longer working. It's no longer giving you those. So it's like progress. Like for me, my addiction, webcam destroyed the crap out of my mind. Like, so I had to heal from webcam. But, you know, it started with pornography. And that's the thing. Like, I know why I started on that route. It was a route to it. It was some type of security. It was serving me at that time. It was giving me what I needed, but I just wasn't able. Not that I chose not to. I just wasn't able to get, you know, what I needed in the right environment. And then, you know, eventually, a lot of things that serve us in our childhood don't end up serving us in our.
That's right. And what you find is you when you discover that this thing is no longer serving you, and you try to stop, and you can't.
Right.
And that's what addiction is. And you go, hey, wait a minute, I can't stop doing this thing. Whether it's, a chemical dependence or just a behavioral addiction, you have to continue doing that for the self-preservation, for the survival, as you mentioned earlier. And that's a really hard thing to come to terms with. And it's the first step, obviously, to addiction is admitting that you're powerless against this thing.
That honesty.
Yes, and being honest with yourself and saying, hey, I really struggle with this thing. This thing is not good for me. It feels good in the moment, and then the fallout from it later is even worse, or it makes me feel bad. Whether it could be anything. I mean, we're talking about pornography, but alcohol does it, drugs, any of these things.
And that's the thing, Hunter, it just makes me, I'm so glad that you're sharing all of this. Cause I really want people to see, cause I know for a fact I was not taught this. I was just people who struggle with drugs or struggle with alcohol. Oh, they're bad. They're just bad people. It's like, there's so much more to the story. We're just only seeing like one sentence in this person's life. And it's like each like year of their life is a chapter, and we're not seeing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're probably just coming in at chapter 22 and looking at that one sentence in their life, and that's where they're at. We're not seeing, maybe certain childhood traumas that caused that. A lot of people don't know as well that I didn't even know this until like 2-3 years ago, that a lot of the times, let's say if a mother is pregnant and she takes drugs while she's pregnant, it is a possibility that the baby will come out literally addicted to the drug.
Yeah. That chemical stuff is passed down from mother to child, and that's it's really dangerous.
And so it's just like, I just want to encourage folks, and you're not a bad person for thinking this way necessarily, because I at least for me and for those who I've been around growing up in life, none of us were taught, there's more to the story than this person's just on drugs, they're bad. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more to the story, folks. So I don't want y'all to beat yourself up. Take this newfound knowledge, and perspective, and start to apply that, because there might be someone that needs your grace, because maybe someone needs someone to just say, I see you, I see where you've been, it makes sense, I'm here to help, or how can I help you? Or, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to work for everyone, but it's like, it is something that can be beneficial, and also a lot of people don't know that there is a point when it comes to alcoholism that if it's too far along, if you try to stop on yourself, you will literally die. So you'll have to go to the hospital for them to be able to, wane you off of it. But a lot of people don't know that. I didn't even know that, that addiction, that word, it just folks, try to remember that maybe there's something beneath the surface that started that. Everything has a root, so it's like how seeds grow, it can get watered, and maybe life's experiences have watered certain things, and not everything's so easy cutter, and it doesn't make the person any less worthy and less worthy of help and love. And I'm saying this because honestly, I'm struggling to verbalize it, but I just to look at someone and just be like, oh, well, just stop. Like, I just don't think, maybe the person means well, maybe they don't, when they say, oh, just stop. However, in a way, it's kind of like, I feel like it can add shame. in a way, and it can internalize shame, and it in a way can invalidate what led to this moment. Like, there's nothing wrong with, like, giving yourself that other perspective, folks, of like, maybe there's something more to this story that I'm not seeing. Because a lot of people who are struggling with addiction, not everyone knows that there were things in the past that might have led to this. You know what I mean? Because it's not like we're taught that. I had to do tons of research to learn certain things. And that newfound knowledge actually helped me to release the shame that I had on myself. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is also power. Like you said, admitting that first step. Acknowledge is also power. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry, but
no,
yes.
Don't be sorry. No, it's good. I think, anyone listening who is struggling with addiction or knows someone struggling with it. I mean, so many people. One of the things I discovered when I went through my recovery, and I still am, was, all of these people that I never knew struggled with it or knew someone who did, sort of shared their stories with me, and I went, oh my gosh, it's everywhere, and it's very seldomly talked about.
Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, like folks listening, you're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of us who have been, struggling with getting help, or asking for help, I'm not saying this is everyone, I'm not generalizing. However, there are folks where, maybe it's kind of like stigmatized to get help because we live in a very do-it-on-your-own society. And that's not how humans have evolved and grown over the years. That's not how we've evolved and grown over the years. Like in our hunter-gatherer days, in the caveman days, we didn't come to this modern age independently. We needed each other. And also one other thing, before I re-ask this question, Hunter, is when you mentioned earlier that our mind, we're not evolved enough to handle this modern age society. I've said that so many times in my previous episodes that haven't aired just yet, because I air 4 episodes a week. So by the time folks hear this, they're already going to hear those other episodes. So folks, this is just something, just more confirmation, that's a thing, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that there are mental illnesses that did not exist way back then that exist now? What? Like, what? Like, legit did not exist back then. Not saying that they weren't discovered. No, there are legit mental illnesses that did not exist back then. Like way back then, because our mind, we're not supposed to be multitasking. We're not supposed to be taking all this things thrown at us, this, snap of a fingers. Did you know for a long time, seconds and minutes, that didn't exist? It was only hours and going by like where the sun is located. So minutes and seconds are actually a modern age thing. It's a man-made concept, because how time is now was not how time was back then. Minutes and seconds did not exist. There was no such thing as 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They calculated hours based on where like the sun is going and things of that nature. They had their ways, but we live in a very fast-paced drive-through society. It's kind of like go, 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 and I feel like that can affect and unintentionally internalize this whole need of lack of patience. And man, I forgot what I was gonna say. I promise you I had like a really cool tie into the question that I was gonna re-ask you. But with all that being said, totally folks,
fine, yeah.
Hunter, for those of us who are like teeter-tottering on, should I get help? And how do I get help? And because it can be stigmatized,
Yeah. I mean, one thing one thing I always sort of understood to be true in my world was that, asking for help was a sign of weakness. And I had internalized that over years and years of watching others sort of seemingly sort of on the surface, participate in life and thrive without asking for help. And so I would look around and go, oh, everyone else has this all figured out. Something's wrong with me. I'm doing something wrong, and I'm not, and I shouldn't ask for help because it's a sign of weakness. And what you eventually learn is it's always okay to ask for help. No matter where you are or what you're doing, it's always okay to ask for help. And that is so important. I mean, asking for help in my recovery saved my life. That's it. It saved my life. I was on a path where, in recovery circles, there's a phrase that, addiction ends in one of two places: prison or death. That's it. And so this saved my life many times over, but and I'm so thankful it did. I was very privileged to have a robust support system in my friends and family, people that loved me unconditionally and said, we're here to help you and get you through this. My recovery story, I went to a few 12-step programs. 12 steps wasn't for me. That's not to say that it's not. I highly encourage anybody to go to meetings and check it out. They are so welcoming and they bring you right in the door.
Basically saying that not everything's a one size fits all.
Correct. Yeah, there are many different ways of going through addiction recovery. For me, I was in an intensive outpatient program through my health insurance provider. That again, I'm speaking from a very privileged place because I had health insurance through my job, which allowed for me to do this. But yeah, this intensive outpatient program allowed me to be in a group setting and share what I had been through and help give me the tools to move forward with a life free from these substances, these vices. Right. But yeah, just to really drive that point home, it is always okay to ask for help.
Right.
And it's not a sign of weakness.
That's another thing. Like Hunter said, you know what I mean? Like, community, depending on someone, not doing it on your own, has saved, his life. Folks, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, it wasn't one individual person that made this. It was a multitude of people. The society enforces independency and glorifies it, while everything we look at is dependent. Like, literally, like the buildings that you're by, it wasn't just one person that built that. It was a multitude of people. Folks, humans, we were never meant to do everything on our own. Never meant to do everything on our own. In fact, I'm not going to get all into it. Statistically speaking and biologically speaking, it is actually very, very detrimental to the human health in all aspects if we were to do everything on our own. So, folks, you deserve the love to step out. You deserve that love to step out and get help. You know what I mean? You're not weak for doing it. You're so strong for confronting it, and stepping out despite the uncomfort, and also really two more things. Folks, something that I learned in one of the classes I was taking, for those of us, who don't have health insurance or the affordability, literally go on Google, on the internet, and type in free and affordable resources for so-and-so addiction. I actually learned in one of my classes that there is a lot of free and affordable. I'm like, whoa, that is actually pretty cool, you know. So, and also, folks, y'all have my Instagram. It'll be in the episode description below. Reach out to me if y'all don't want to go through this process by yourself. I can send some resources your way. And I don't know, like, you won't, if you feel like alone, I want to be a support the best that I can. Mind you, if I don't respond to the Instagram DM, I will try my best. I don't want. How about this? I don't want to make promises, but I will make as an offer, and I will hope that I will be able to, you know, respond and send resources and something encouraging as well along with that. But with that being said, folks, Andrew's going to be back for a part 2 because we still have a couple other topics to talk about.
Hunter. That's right.
What did I say?
Andrew.
I'm so sorry.
It's all good, man. No worries, Trent. It's all good.
That's the thing,
totally
Hunter. We're still going to be like recording. I'm just going to split this into part 1, part 2. So
great.
So I'm just saying goodbye to folks because this episode.
Yeah, you're reaching the limit. Well, you can, if you want to do that outro again, and then we'll go right into part 2. That's fine.
Oh no, it's it's vulnerability time. Oh yeah, no, we just
okay.
How it is. And yeah, you can also continue talking about this in the next part. It's just, this is just such good conversation. I don't want it to reach like one episode over an hour. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it right here and then restart the recording so that it'll be a part 2. So folks, you'll be getting both these episodes on the same week. I just want to make sure we have enough time for when Andrew does end up talking more about addiction, dating, and finding yourself. Hunter.
You said Andrew again.
Who was Andrew? Why am I saying Andrew? Who is Andrew? I don't even have a friend named Andrew. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. He was one of the guests. Okay, but yeah, he was like a guest a while back. Weird. Okay. Okay, folks. See y'all like literally next episode.